Hello everyone, welcome back to another Project Gladiator weather forecast. Today I'll be covering the weather for August 1st of 2023, and currently there are two slight risk setups for the north central plains for North Dakota, parts of northwestern Minnesota, and parts of eastern Montana, as well as another slight risk for the Kansas, Colorado, Nebraska border region and parts of southeastern Wyoming, with a trailing marginal threat around that does go into Missouri. We also do have another marginal threat for the eastern coast that I probably won't cover too much in today's forecast, if not at all. It does extend across the eastern coast from North Carolina, across South Carolina, Georgia, and across the eastern Florida coast. Our threats for today don't really include all that much of a tornado threat for any locations. As for our wind threat, we do have two 15% for the slight risk region, as well as a 5% for the marginal threat for the eastern coast. As for our hail threats, we don't have a hail threat for the eastern coast marginal threat. However, we do have a 5% for the slight risk region further down south, and a 15% for the slight risk region further up north. Taking a look at our pivotal weather model, starting off with our 500 millibars, you can see that we do have a strong mid-level jet across the north central plains where that northern slight risk region is. However, it is struggling a little bit to get into the Americas. It is mostly across southern Canada. However, after storms do develop in Canada, they are expected to move south and pull that jet stream with it just a little bit into the slight risk region. So originally they do develop in Canada, but they will move south to trigger that slight risk region for North Dakota and Minnesota. And this mid-level flow is a little bit more prominent than the slight risk further down south, so we are going to see more of an increased hail potential further up north and further down south. So for the slight risk that is further down south, you can see that we do have a little bit of a isolated shortwave trough that is expected to develop and move through the region. That is going to be the main trigger for severe weather development in that particular region. And you can see it does look like a little bit of a surface low is expected to develop right here. You can see a small surface low that is expected to develop there. That shouldn't really increase our potential for severe weather development all too much. However, the shortwave trough is going to be the main trigger for severe weather development. And because it is isolated from any strong mid-level jet, it is going to be a little bit weaker and not really elongated hodographs too much. So again, we are going to see a little bit more of an increased hail potential further up north than further down south. Taking a look at our dew points, starting off with the northern slight risk location for the north central plains, you can see that we do have some fairly strong dew points in place, dew points that are expected to be in the upper 60s as well as the low 70s. And then further down south, you can see that we do have stronger dew points. They are fairly similar but slightly stronger. Dew points that are in the upper 60s as well as the low and maybe even the mid 70s as well, going into Nebraska, northern Kansas, and Missouri. So we could definitely see the possibility of somewhat stronger instability further down south. However, with strong lapse rates, we could definitely see the possibility of Cape values that could reach the 3000s in both locations. Taking a look at our lapse rates, focusing on the northern slight risk region, you can see that we do have some fairly strong lapse rates in place. Lapse rates that are expected to be in the 7s, the 6s, and maybe even the low 8s. And then further down south, we do have something similar to that as well. We do have lapse rates that are expected to be in the 6s, the 7s, and maybe even the low 8s as well in some locations. Again, this is going to allow for the possibility of Cape values that do reach the 3000s, and how this contributes to our hail potential is it lowers the optimal hail development layer closer down to the ground with stronger lapse rates. So with strong instability, it is going to be easier to reach with a strong updraft. And with overall weak but definitely sufficient mid-level flow aloft for some somewhat elongated hodographs, we could see the possibility of some medium to small hail. Taking a look at our instability, starting off with the northern slight risk region, you can see that we do have some fairly strong Cape values that are expected to be in the mid to low 3000s. And then further down south, you can see that we do also have some fairly strong Cape values as well. Cape values that are expected to be in the mid to upper 3000s and maybe even the low 4000s as well. With some moderate mid-level flow aloft and the possibility of somewhat elongated hodographs and some strong lapse rates in the region, we can see the possibility of some small to medium hail in both locations. However, with strong lapse rates and strong instability, we could also see the possibility of some damaging winds for both locations as well. Taking a look at our bulk shear, I primarily look at bulk shear to get an idea of our speed shear. I will not be taking a look at our storm relative helicity or our directional shear for today, as there is not all that much of a tornado threat, so we don't really have to worry about it all that much for today. So I will not be taking a look at storm relative helicity, and I primarily take a look at bulk shear to get an idea of our speed shear and our hail potential. So taking a look at our bulk shear or our speed shear, starting off with the northern slight risk region, you can see that we do have some fairly strong speed shear in place. We do have a speed shear that is expected to be in the 50s as well as the 40s. That is going to allow for the possibility of elongated photographs, and again, with our strong instability, allow for the possibility of some small to medium hail. And then you can see further down south, we don't really have a nearly as strong speed shear in place. However, it should allow for the possibility of that 5% hail threat and allow for the possibility of some small to medium hail there as well. Now that I've told you the weather, please go down to the description and check out the socials for Project Gladiator, and join the Discord for any updates on Project Gladiator. And if you live in any of the areas I covered for severe weather for today, please stay weather alert for the time being, and hopefully I will be able to see you guys tomorrow with another forecast.